352. Look on that. There's a little activity. Activity 1. On your calculator, take the square root, parentheses, -4 parentheses, squared. What do you get for an answer? 4. Correct? Do the next one. Take the square root of 9.3 squared. 9.3. Take square root of, do you guys know what the next one is? It's 9.3. Notice whatever you put in came out as a blank number. Positive. So the absolute value of x is defined as the square root of x squared algebraically. I know it means the distance.
Couldn't you just say have the same number except
Oh, that's a great question. Jordan said, why do I need this absolute value symbol? Can't I simply say that this equals this? Let's check it out. Let's say x equals 5. Okay? 5 squared is 25. The square root of 25 is? It's 5, isn't it? Right? Was Jordan correct? Yes. Now here's the tricky part. Let's say x equals a -5. I'm saying it again. Plain old x equals a -5. Right? What do you get when you square a -5? 25. What's the square root of 25? Is that x?
No.
No. X is a -5, isn't it? It needs to be positive. What guarantees that it's going to be positive? Absolute value. So, I have something else I'm going to write here. Jordan, this is true. When you gave me 5, right?
Yep.
It is true when x is greater than or equal to 0 because that guarantees you have 0 or a positive number. Would everybody agree? Yep. And be free to yell out there because Miss Bregelman's going to be gone next week and I'm going to be totally clueless. So you guys got to say, hey, I can't see it, move it. You're not hurting my feelings, okay? This is about you. It's, you know, it seems like it's about me, but that's not true, okay? You guys got to be able to see. Now, let's say x is negative. That's what that means, right? Like the -5. This is the tricky part. This caused me to lose some hair. This is true. This means this. X is a -5, correct? When I put it in here, I get a positive 5. Isn't a -1 times a -5, 5? So just because the negative sign is in front of the x does not mean you have a negative number. I know, isn't that weird? Because what if x was a -5? And you put a negative sign in front of the -5? Guess what you get? Positive 5. Because it means opposite. And Eli, I must have thought about that for days. I would go in the middle of the woods and I would sit down and I would just think about that idea. Okay? Yep. Good luck. Great. We're moving on to the next one. And if you take a look at this graph. See here where x is greater than 0, don't I have y equals x? Over here where x is negative, don't I have x equals a -x? Isn't that what I wrote right here? a negative x? The graph matches it too. All right, simple quadratics. That's as simple as a quadratic equation I can get. How do I solve it? What's my answer? There are two answers to this. It crosses the line at two places on the axes. Danny. Now, you know how mathematicians write 2 and a negative 2? Because we're lazy people. Plus, minus 2. That way we only have to write 2 once. Okay? That means 2 and a negative 2. Okay? So, what's the answer to that, baby? What? Okay, here's the tough one. What makes this harder than the last two? Keith.
Because it doesn't come out as a whole number.
Right, it's not a perfect square, right? It's what we call an irrational number. So what I'm going to do here is x is going to equal plus or minus the square root of 40. And you can figure out what that is on the calculator, but I don't care because I am perfectly correct. I'm not rounding to the nearest decimal. I have the exact answer. See how much easier that is than going to your calculator and saying, hey, that's 6 point blah, 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 blah. What is it? 3-2? Everybody okay with that? The biggest thing is you got to give me the plus and the minus. You will lose half credit on the test if you forget that minus. I guarantee you. Because it's free. You go to college and make that mistake, you paid $1,000 to make that mistake. Here, it doesn't cost you anything to make a mistake. It's absolutely free, Kansas. This is the best place to make mistakes. Ms. Regelman made a mistake today. How much did you pay for the class you're in?
I think this class is about $1,000,
Yeah. So you probably, and all the mistakes you make during now are worth $1,000.
Thanks.
I just thought I'd share that with you. All right, this right here is an irrational number because, like what Keith said, it couldn't be written as a whole number. Really, it couldn't be written as a fraction. Look at this. This is not an irrational number. This is a rational number. Does anybody know what the square root of that fraction is? 2 is on top. What's the square root of 4? 2. What's the square root of 9? 3. So because it can be written as a fraction, Lindsay, it is a rational number. This is an irrational number because 17 is not a perfect square and 18 is not a perfect square.